but thanks for listening. Yeah. Hello, everybody, and welcome to We Say Things, episode 58. Suns fan here with Cinder in. Greetings, my Danish friend.
Hello. I am indeed Danish and friend.
I am indeed friend. So we have an interesting episode. Let's do our normal intro stuff, and then we can get into the bulk news, which I'm sure most people will be listening in for anyway. So first and foremost, we want to thank our patrons, as always, that allow us to do this show every single week. By the way, I'm proud of ourselves, Cinder, for doing this every single week. Pretty much on the dot. You've done really well for yourself. Good job.
Thank
I was
you.
more worried about you than me.
I was more worried about you. It's actually really impressive that you managed to do this every week.
Thank you, Cinderin. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'll take the first to you.
I'll take the first half of our in Bruges tier. Mr. Underscore Man, the god himself, Absolute Sword, Agent Huggy Bear, Ben Broomhead is cooler than Ben Jackson, and then Ben Jackson, Chosnek Pizda, DG, Dion Shy Guy, Dent Head Man, which you might need to change your name because I actually just was feeling myself up, my head that is, on cam, and the dent is almost entirely gone, Cinderin.
It was temporary.
It was temporary.
He's evolving.
My boy Dop, Dyslexic Lawyer, Fane, and freshly seasoned Goat Balls.
And then the second half, Hoey988, Houston Adamo, or Adamo. How do you say that?
Probably Adamo. Yeah.
Huge Erection, nice one. Anonymous, Lick, Puco, Poop Feast 420, Pitch Black, Ronnie Keel, Shark TM, Sneaky Beaver, Terry Tip, The Coward, Tickles, Fellowship of the Ping, and Wooden Aftertaste. As always, thank you guys very, very much for the In Bruges tier contribution to the podcast. It's awesome to see how we keep getting this big support from all of you. So really appreciate that. And of course, to everybody else who keeps supporting us every month so that we can keep making this. Many thanks for all your Patreon, for all your patronage, I believe is the right word.
Wow, very good, Cinder.
Patronage,
so
yes.
much.
I too speak the language of England.
We should also announce that I know people were asking about this, A to Z obviously is never coming back, ever. It's been canceled forever, but we've now replaced it with a new show called Pog with Friends, which you can find on the Dota Cinema channel, where Cinder and I play with a guest every episode, and the first episode was with Gork. And you know, the difference between the shows, Cinder, and A to Z, we had to replay how many times to make it seem like we were having fun, you know, because the games were so god-awful.
Some of the games were absolutely atrocious. Sometimes we had to play like 3 or 4 games to even get a game where it wasn't like somebody ruining or leaving or
right.
AFK jungle.
Pog required 1 game, guys. It was fun on the first try, believe it or not. But yeah, that was really cool. And you have an update on something.
Yes.
By the way, I got a haircut. Thanks for noticing.
Yeah, I mean, you did tweet that, so I did.
A lot
of
people don't.
And
have
I was
Twitter.
like, since you've tweeted it, I don't need to talk about it. Everybody knows.
Oh, that's so kind.
But yeah, good job, Nikki. Good haircut. It looks nice. It looks good on you. As for myself, I've got an eye job. I have had my skin removed under my eyes by pollen allergy. So I've had my own do-over. I hope you guys like the look.
Job. Wow.
I think it's temporary. I hope it's temporary. But it does make me look kind of like a zombie, which I could rock that for a party. So that's nice.
Yeah, I could see it.
Okay. Anyway, the quick follow-up I wanted to do from last week's episode before we can move on was I got a pretty good comment that I just wanted to follow up on, because we were talking last week, if you guys remember, about the Twitch DMCA of music, where I said that for the artists or for the record labels or whatever, it's obviously, in my opinion, it's a huge loss for them to just DMCA everything, or rather just nuke all of the VODs and try to shut it down rather than get the exposure. But as somebody pointed out, like, it's very possible that there could be something in the future where it could be a cooperation, and it's like a symbiotic relationship where the streamers get to buy the rights to play the music. And that's something I would definitely be in support of. I'm not saying it's an all or nothing thing where we should just get all of it for free and they should just whatever. And I don't think I represented that view last time. So I want to make that very clear. If it's affordable and reasonable, I definitely think that could be a thing on Twitch where you buy the rights to music. The problem is just like getting something like a radio license, or I'm not exactly sure. I don't remember what it's called, but I've heard it talked about on another stream. Is like insanely expensive, and it's never going to be something that the streamer, unless you're like a gigantic streamer, that you can even afford. So hopefully we get some healthy medium in between. And if it's an all or nothing, I still kind of stand by what I said last time, that I do think it's still better for them to get the exposure than nuke it entirely. But I understand from the creators' perspectives, obviously, that you want to be paid for what you do. I mean, I do as well, right? So I'm not. It's not an alien concept to me.
I don't want to go off on a tangent here. I think when you say creators, like the artists themselves, I would say in most cases these days do not care. It's more the record labels and pretty much everybody in between.
But even for the record labels, it should be in their interest to.
No, I agree to an extent.
Make something that to work together, But yeah, okay. Just wanted to close that one out and follow up on that. So let's get started on today, which is going to be a very grim and special episode, basically.
Yes. So this is the Dota 2 section. That's why we left it for this, because it is directly related. Obviously expands past that, but we're not here to talk about everything. So if you're getting your news from us, it will be maybe not as detailed as some would like. But so I think first we can start with, in the Dota 2 subreddit, there was a lot of threads about sexism in gaming. That was like, I want to say like 3 or 4 days in a row, like pretty sure it was after our last week's podcast. Which honestly, that happens like every year, which we're going to get to that at the end of this segment, because I do want to get into that a little bit as well. But some people were called out, let's say. So the first one was Zyori getting called out by Ashley Christ. And I think instead of us recounting what happened between both of them, you guys should just go see the statements they both made, as it kind of, I don't know the best way to explain it. It's kind of how it stands right now, as opposed to the next topic, which is maybe more concrete. Is that maybe the best way to say it?
Yeah. Just to elaborate, basically, the start of this conversation with Ashley Christ and Zyori was a twit longer from Ashley Christ, so that's where it starts. And then Zyori has a clip on his stream where he talks about it extensively, responding to that twit longer, and that's kind of what there is on that topic right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not a closed case. It's kind of in that state, and yeah, we're not going to judge right now. Just watch it for yourselves, make up your own opinion, have a look at it, and try to keep an open mind about everything for both sides. Would be my advice.
Yep.
And I guess we should also mention, I know this is like the Dota 2 section, but this whole movement that's happening right now with a lot of women coming forward, it's not just in Dota 2. Like, this is like a gaming-wide trend, including Twitch and other games, basically, other scenes, whether it's within their esports or the more casual side. There's a lot happening right now, and we can't recap all of it. So we're focusing on the Dota part, basically.
Yeah,
today.
Not to go off on another tangent. I actually made some bullet point notes for myself so I wouldn't get off tangent, and here I am going off tangent. Nikki shared a document that I guess is shared on Reddit, on some other, I don't know what subreddit it is, about all the people in gaming that have been called out, and it is fucking huge, this
enormous
list. Holy shit. Yeah. Anywho, the one that we're going to talk about specifically today is Grand Grant, who was called out by several people. So let me list off the things that we learned. Number one, harassed a woman named Llama Down Under. For those that don't know, was a caster a few years ago. I can't remember how many years ago it was, actually.
I want to say 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, something probably like that. Someone, like 2 hours before our podcast was about to start, news came out of him being accused of sexual assault back at TI4. And I think another thing that is kind of public knowledge at this point, he has a history of alcohol abuse, at least in the past. I don't know if it's been in the last couple of years or not. But either way, I think that's public knowledge overall. He went to court for the Llama Down Under thing and actually lost a defamation case, along with getting a restraining order. So I think before we move on any further, we should talk about our knowledge of this, since I think that's going to be the first thing people bring up. So for me, obviously, like when it comes to like the sexual assault stuff, no idea. I don't think, I'd be surprised if anybody knows, but I can't speak for anybody. I'm not going to speak for you, Synderen, but definitely did not know anything about that. But when it comes to the defamation case, I actually did hear about this when it was going on. and then didn't really hear the results, or I didn't know how it actually ended.
Right.
But I know for a fact, and this isn't me calling anybody out, there's a lot of talent, a lot of people behind the scenes, people within EG at the time definitely knew about that. So that I don't think this came as a big surprise to like a lot of people behind the scenes. What about yourself?
Right. And the reason we're mentioning that someone at EG should know about this is that obviously at some point, I think it was that 2 years back or something, that EG signed Grant as a broadcaster and a streamer for the org. Maybe it's less than 2 years ago.
Feels like less, but time does fly. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously there's some things flying around right now with EG being like putting on a face right now, because surely somebody in the company knew this when he was hired, so they kind of looked through it. And now that it's becoming public, they're saying that they have a zero tolerance policy. So it seems like there might be a little bit of disconnect there, or something that's been lost in the information chain, basically.
Why don't we just read off their actual tweets instead of just paraphrasing? Yeah, so they tweeted 3 things. This is from EG, that is. Effective immediately, Grant has been released and is no longer a member of EG. We have a zero tolerance workplace policy and take any accusation of harassment or violation of our policies handbook seriously. Although Grant was apparently involved in incidents which occurred prior to his time at EG, the impact of these incidents is still felt today by our team, by our community, and by our partners. We have made the decision to part ways effective immediately. Grant has taken responsibility for these past mistakes, but he also has agreed that at this time, stepping back from esports is the right thing to do to continue foster a positive and safe community. So I guess we should tie in Grant's tweets. He also tweeted 3 things. I just want to apologize to everyone in the Dota scene. The things I have done in the past really are just horrible to look back on. I have worked on myself over the last few years, and I've tried to better understand people and better understand me. But unfortunately, reality of it all is that does not make up for the past and what I did. I don't want people to flame other people. I was the one who brought this upon myself, and truly do apologize to the people I've hurt. I'll be leaving Dota and the esports scene for a long time, if not permanent. I don't want to make this about me, though. I want to say I hope the people who don't feel safe do feel safer, and I hope Dota becomes an overall better esport over the upcoming years. So, unpack. I mean, I don't know how many thoughts you even have on this, just because it's such a... I mean, I think I speak for both of us that the entire thing, just reading, especially... the last one that came out, so disgusting. I felt literally disgusted reading that shit.
Yeah. So basically, there was a pretty... I think it was Wicked Cosplay who posted it on behalf of the victim, who's chosen to be anonymous, but have Wicked as the... What's that called?
Proxy?
Yeah,
maybe?
I suppose let's call it a proxy. And it's very elaborately described what happened. I recommend you guys... we're not going to read the whole thing out because it's a very, very long thing, but I would recommend, once again, like with the other stuff, that you go and check it out for yourselves. It's a tweet from Wicked Cosplay recently about the whole incident. It's the one from TI4, basically. If I'm not mistaken, that was that one, right?
Yes.
It was the TI4 one. Yeah, the sexual assault one. So, yeah. I mean, obviously, it doesn't need to be said that this is absolutely atrocious and should never happen. This is, I would say, even to a more extreme degree than a lot of other things that are completely intolerable. But this is just, it's always way too far, but this is even further, right? We can't tolerate shit like this, and it's the right thing to do from EG's side. And from Grant's perspective, it's probably also the right thing to do what he has done. So it's kind of just, it's just shit for everybody involved. But when you do things like this happen. Like, that is what it is. Now, what I want to clarify here is that I understand from the community's perspective that this is something you might be, you might make, conspiracy theories about talent kind of like hiding stuff or backing each other up. I genuinely did not know about any of this. Nothing. I didn't even know about the restraining order. At least I don't remember ever hearing about it. So I don't think it's really something that's talked about a lot or brought up. Had absolutely no idea about it. So it's not like, I can't speak for everyone, right? I don't know what all the other casters know, but I know that this is not like some sort of... We don't have like a cult where everybody just covers each other up and you can get away with anything. So I just want to make sure that the community doesn't start like placing mistrust in all of the talent and that everybody's just a disgusting, fiend that gets away with this stuff. But I'm not here to make this about myself. I just wanted to clarify that because we know how things like this can spiral out of control and people who are not supposed to be affected by it get affected in the end. So just wanted to clear that. And like you mentioned with yourself, you haven't heard about this either.
No,
except the restraining thing you had heard about. But,
right. That was, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want to get into how it's just, I think it paints some people in a bad light, maybe. But I mean, I generally knew that he had a checkered past, but I didn't know any specifics other than this restraining order business.
Right. And I think you also, I mean, it really depends on the seriousness of the thing, right? But you can understand from some perspective, like it's always going to be this thing of who deserves a second chance for what, right? And I think maybe with this restraining order and harassment, maybe people who knew about it were like, okay, it went to court, he lost, he learned from his mistake and moved on. But this other thing is just, it's just, too much, right?
I mean,
Like
there's varying
that
levels of, I don't know what the word is. I mean, the last one,
severity,
I don't
know
yes,
what to call it.
I don't want to compare each instance but the last one in
Right.
particular for me, I found to be like unforgivable. Like there's a certain point of no return.
I mean, in a way you can say you don't want to compare it, but the court of law compares it, right? Like there's some crimes that are more serious than others.
Right.
So we obviously work within that framework in esports too. Like some things are more punishable than others. And yeah, don't really have much more to say about it, to be honest, in terms of Grant's case. I mean, it's just despicable. I don't know what else to say. Like there's not much more.
There's not much more to say. I do want to transition to what the original topic was, which I kind of referenced at the beginning. And I did talk about Nikki extensively about this. I mean, not just today, but just in general, because this obviously affects her as well. And I wanted to get both perspectives pretty much. But conversation started with the way women are treated in gaming. So let's talk about that just briefly. So women in gaming, Cinderin, constantly harassed. They don't feel welcome. Nikki, just as an example, has come to me in literal tears because of the way that she's treated online. Part of which is like, and I totally understand this perspective, not being able to use a microphone ever. Because if somebody finds out you're a girl, it just feels like there's a chance that you're just going to get harassed. And the chance is actually higher than you would think. And like her examples are like Counter-Strike, especially where the microphone is like crucial. Like you could say you could get away with not using a mic in Dota, right? In theory, even though it's still not a great solution in my opinion. But Counter-Strike especially, like people literally get mad at you if you don't use your microphone. And of course, I've seen this firsthand being in with games with her. So just overall, Dota needs to be, I mean, it's not just Dota, but gaming in general needs to be more welcoming. I mean, if you want to talk about Dota specifically, it's already the hardest fucking game to get into. Imagine being a woman trying to get into Dota. That actually sounds miserable on every level. So I don't know if you had any more thoughts before we move on to other topics.
I was just gonna say, like you said, it's a problem across games, right? In gaming in general, and we've been talking about this on other occasions. Like, what's the reason that it has ended up this way? And obviously, a big part of it is the anonymity thing. It's obviously a very male-dominated field. There's just way more boys and men playing these online video games, at least historically. I don't know what the gender distribution is now, so I'm not going to just pull a number out of my ass with the relative percentages. But it just feels like the reason it's got to the state that it's got to, in my opinion, is that people have just been willing to just look through, what's that called? Look through fingers with it? Did you say that? You say that in Danish. I think that's a Danish idiom.
Through fingers.
Yeah. It's a Danish idiom. That doesn't really work. To just pretend it's not there or just be like, whatever, People have been whatever about it for way too long. And that means that this kind of mentality and kind of attitude can just fester. And obviously, as you know, with the internet, it's really easy to find people that think like you do. And there's the whole anonymity factor and no consequence of it. Like the worst thing that can happen in Dota is that you can get muted, right? Or I don't know if there's been accounts banned for sexism. I don't know. Willfully ignorant. Thank you very much, Wedgie Gamer. That's a good way of saying it.
See, I always thought, I don't know if we've talked about this before, but anonymity, I attributed that to toxicity in general. But I don't think it has almost anything to do with it because, like, if you go to Facebook, you literally see the guy's name and
Yeah.
they're literally giving death threats. Like I've myself, not even being a woman, I've gotten death threats. I got a death threat for liking Artifact when it came out. Like, how fucking
Right.
insane do you have to be? It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, people will go to extreme lengths with language and their their overall demeanor online with stuff. For me, like toxicity is comes in many forms, right? It can be a personal attack, it can be an attack on how you're performing in the game, it can be an attack on your gender, it can be an attack on your age, like whatever it is. Like people do all sorts of shit because they're angry or upset or frustrated, or some people even for trolling, which is just as bad. Because the person on the receiving end can't see your face, can't see if you're just joking about it, and a lot of the time through text or voice, it can be difficult to tell if something is a joke or not. Most of the time, it's just flat out malicious, right? So the issue here is that your thing is just as ridiculous, right? Somebody threatening you or being super upset with you for liking a game, but it's just like people just go in and immediately hate you even though you've done nothing, right? That's the thing about this. Like, I know this is going to sound weird because I'm obviously full on against being toxic in games, and I want people to try to function
You're
in
not
an environment.
toxic enough. Let's be real.
I understand. Maybe. I understand that it's easy to get frustrated and let things out on your teammates. I have a higher level of understanding for people that get angry when people make mistakes or when people are being assholes themselves than people who get angry with people for just some inherent reason, right? Like if I play like shit in a game and somebody starts yelling at me, I have a higher level of understanding that they're annoyed with me because like I'm impeding their performance and their ability to win the game if I'm playing bad, right? But if somebody literally just uses the mic and is a girl or a woman or has a female voice, then like how does this impact anything, right? Like why would you get angry at this fact? Why do you get harassed for that? Like is there just like some inherent, like maybe it comes back to the whole, like this is like an almost archaic thing at this point with gaming, which is like girls can't play video games, right? And if that's the mentality that's festered, then people are like, oh, it's a girl, so she's bad. So you're already in that negative mindset that she's going to pull the team down.
Yeah, there might be that factor.
Know.
I think it's more about tiny pee-pee syndrome. A lot of tiny pee-pees out there, and they just can't handle having a tiny pee-pee, so they take it out on people that they feel are inferior for whatever reason, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's this isn't meant to be like a comparison of what toxicity is better or worse. It's just like all of it is shit. But it's I feel like it's easier to be forgiving when people get caught up in the moment and get angry. Just like in real life, if you're doing something and you're super frustrated, like imagine you're trying to build something and it keeps collapsing. At some point, you just get like, so people can lose their temper at random shit, myself included, at like something stupid where it's my own fault, right? I'll just be upset that I'm failing at some task. I'm like, this is way too easy, and I'm fucking this up. That's fucking annoying, right? But it's just a totally different ball game. It doesn't, like, I can't even make sense of it, right? There's no. Do you get what I'm saying here?
Yes, like, I totally understand. I agree.
I don't know. I don't know if I even needed to elaborate on this.
I think it's hard to talk about. Everybody responds differently to stuff like that, right? Like, I get more mad at myself than anything. I have less tolerance for people getting mad at me sucking than you do. Everybody has different varying levels of. I guess the perspectives are just different based on your skill level or how calm. I mean, you're like a literal robot, right? So you're a good base level to look at.
I think it really much depends on the game. I think in CS, the tables would turn a little bit, probably.
In what way?
Like, because that is the game that you were competitive at and like really high skilled. So then I think your perspective in CS is different from in Dota. I think your mindset is bound to change when you get really competitive at something. And it can change either way. You can get more toxic, or you can get like, I don't know, like you're just more competitive for better or worse, right? It can bring out the best in people that they have to compete really hard. Like they try really hard and they try to be a good teammate or whatever. It can bring out the worst where you're just like angry at people that don't.
I would get more. So. I would get way more mad at myself than teammates, because that's like the team dynamic. If you get mad at your teammates, then you're just going to break up chemistry and all that stuff.
Yeah.
These days it's different because Dota, I don't really care how good I am, even though I probably should a little bit. But FPS games where it doesn't matter, I care a lot because I used to be good. So I get more mad at the game now and myself
Mhm.
for just being an old man of sorts. But yeah, I totally
Okay,
get it.
here we are just talk now we're talking a lot about the whole skill thing, and let's just remember where we came from with this whole discussion, right? That it's literally people just getting angry and abusing others for playing the game. It's
Yeah.
nothing else than that. And I think I feel like we're two guys talking from our perspective. I think it's hard to really understand unless you've experienced it. You're closer to having experienced it than me because you've seen it a bit through Nikki's eyes and her experiences, but we can't really justify or like we can't really represent just how bad this is. We can try to understand and do our best, but it's always something else to be on the receiving end. It's like if when I give advice on my stream, when people are like, "How do you stay calm?" or when people are toxic, how do you do this or that? And it's way easier to say it from your own perspective because people can have something going on in their lives that makes it harder. Uh, for women, it's already inherently difficult because of this factor that we've just talked about, right? So there's just so much
Well, I feel
complexity to
like
this that
I'm
it's not.
like, well, I think people already know this. We're definitely not experts on this subject. I feel like I'm learning new stuff every
Mhm.
day, every week, or whatever the case may be. By no means are we set as human beings, and uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think it's an issue that is just been recurring, and it's kind of gotten to this boiling point. It feels like.
And
Um,
could you imagine being in that position? Like I'm trying to imagine how I would handle being in that position.
I
Like
wouldn't
the
play
kind
Dota
of
probably.
like the kind of tenacity you need to have overcome some shit like that.
Yeah,
It there is probably a pretty clear correlation between the fact that you have to endure this stuff and that there's so little representation of women in competitive gaming, right?
of course. Yeah, of
Part
course.
of it is how many of them play to begin with, but then you need to get through the second filter, which is this one where you even tolerate and handle this shit. And then you need to function in a team dynamic, which could get way more intimate, where you could have the same problems, which I believe has even happened, where there's been a team
Yeah.
that wasn't just guys, where there was one or two girls or whatever, and there was team drama then based on gender. Like
Right. I
the
mean,
odds that you have to beat are just fucking ridiculous for a
and
team game as a
that
woman has to
last
do so.
hurdle is maybe the biggest because there are some pro players, and I'll just leave it at that. It would never
Yeah.
work, which is unfortunate. But I mean, I think baby steps. I don't think this is something that could ever be just fixed overnight. It's more about educating the masses
Yeah,
and
exactly.
whatever else needs to be done.
And recognizing that every little bit helps, right? Like
Yeah,
every big, how to say, societal change, if you want to call it that, it doesn't happen overnight. Like it takes years or even decades for things to change with big issues like sexism or racism or all of this like big kind of societal topics. So contributing and making sure to give people a voice and help better the problem and not expect miracles. I think that's also important because that can be discouraging. If people think, oh, this is going to be so easy to fix if we all just do it, and then you get disappointed and get this feeling of hopelessness,
Hmm.
just keep a reasonable outlook that things like this take time, but everybody who's hit by it will appreciate it so much if things improve. Like just seeing that effort is taken and that things are slowly getting better is very motivating, right?
Yep.
I
I
wish
mean,
we could just fix it with the snap of a finger, but it's not going to happen. Let's
right.
just be real here.
I mean, right now it feels like, and it's not for all women. Some still do this, but for Nikki to be able to play a game of Dota or Counter Strike or whatever, she can't use her mic. So already she's having a lesser experience. She's forced to have a lesser
Yeah.
experience to be able to fit in, so to speak. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anywho, let's move on to more trivial topics, Cinder, which is
Yep.
regular Dota tournaments, which we're actually casting. The
Yep.
Beyond Epic Dota tournament. We will be casting today, in fact. Let me look at the times. 5 a.m. my
14
time,
CEST.
14 CEST. We will also be casting on Wednesday and Thursday and
And
Saturday. So you guys
And
can look
all
forward
of these
to
days, we're casting at 1400 CEST. And on the Saturday, we're casting 2 series back to back with best of threes. Everything we're casting is best of threes, and all the other days it's 1 series, and Saturday is 2 series back to
I
back.
did see you tweet that. I
that's what you
don't
can look
think
for.
that's correct, though. Thursday, I believe, is 2 hours later than usual.
Is it?
I didn't want to tweet and correct you and just ruin your parade. I wanted to
You
give.
could if I was wrong.
I wanted you to give out fake news so that I could call you out on the podcast for fake news, Cinderin. Jesus.
Oh, anything for clicks.
We should probably double check that. But
Yeah.
did you want to talk about the tournament, or is it too early? I mean, the group stage has already started.
It's a bit early. We can just mention the quality of teams that we have. We have some of the very best, if not all of the very best, basically, in Western Europe and CIS. So teams such as Secret, Liquid, Nigma, OG, NIP, Alliance. So those are kind of considered, I would say, the big six right now in Western Europe.
Big seven.
And then in Viking as well is kind of like a wild card, to be honest, for me. They can take games and even series off of these top six, but I wouldn't put them in the same category just yet. But they're doing very well in the tournament, which is a different story. And then from CIS, we have Empire, Fly to Moon, Virtus Pro, Unique, and Bait, who replaced Navi because Navi are working on roster issues, supposedly. They're not finalized yet. So they decided to withdraw, and Bait got their spot. And I don't know why VP Prodigy isn't here. It might be a tournament limitation that each org can only have one team. And obviously VP Prodigy is owned by Umbrella org Virtus Pro. So
right.
Yeah. But good teams, good Dota. You should look forward to watching that if you haven't
It's been
already.
good so far. So Team +1, according to Beyond the Summit's tweet, have been removed from the BTS Pro Series due to multiple confirmed incidents of match fixing. All previous match results will be nullified. We have provided relevant information and evidence to Valve. +1 are currently banned from all future BTS tournaments, which, I mean, if they feel strongly enough to tweet that out, I would highly expect this ban to continue on to all Valve Dota-related tournaments.
Yeah, what's the roster of +1?
DNM, Ched, Jano, Weege, Xuan.
I'm finding it here.
So we have 2 Canadians, an American, Mexican, and Argentinian. Yeah.
Okay.
I've never personally seen any of their games, so I can't really speak to anything. But
I saw a clip recently of DNM pulling some ridiculous 3v5 game comeback where 2 of their players were disconnected and they ended up winning. But that is obviously entirely beside the point here. And the most important thing, I think, is the wording. It's multiple confirmed incidents. Now, we don't know how they're confirmed, but I would be very surprised if BTS puts out a statement like this without being absolutely certain, because they know what's at risk for the players. So you don't word it like this unless you're full on fucking confident. And we've talked about this in a previous episode. I think it's really important because there's all of this, like, there's always allegations with people having money on matches. They're like, oh, was this a throw? And they feel like they unfairly lost a bet. And that you can always make these narratives that, oh, this team fucked up, they're definitely match fixing. I really want to make it clear that if you put out allegations of match fixing, you need to have a really strong case because of what the negative backlash is for the players and the team.
I mean, this is what we were talking about with the other team that was recently banned. Like, if it's a one-off, I feel like it's super difficult to say you've confirmed. But if multiple and there's a pattern, then, I mean, it definitely becomes obvious at a certain point, right? In theory. So yeah, expect them to be banned for life, which that's another subject of discussion that we've talked about before, which we won't this time around. Dota coordinator issues, Cinderin. A lot of people are having issues. Dota tweeted out in today's update, which was June 19th. We will be extending the Battle Pass end date by a week from September 12th to September 19th. We've also made a few improvements to the game coordinator today, and we'll continue to investigate some more clues related to the extreme load surge that happened at 4 a.m. Seattle. So
this was 4 days ago.
How many days in a row was this an issue? It was like 3 at least, I want to say.
Yeah, I think so.
And it happened at the same time every day. And I assume it's fixed because I haven't heard complaints.
Yeah, I think I don't know if they tweeted out that it's fixed. I think they would also be very hestant with that. Even if they think it's fixed, they would be really careful.
That's normally during a time that you play, right? 4 a.m. PST. It's like 2 hours from now.
It was definitely a problem. But Yeah, I don't know the exact duration of it on the individual days. I don't know what happened to games if they just broke overall. The main problem I've had is inability to find the coordinator in general, so I couldn't find games. But I do think I read something about people's games just breaking mid game as well, where you just lost all connection to the server. But I'm not 100% positive how prevalent that was, or if I'm misremembering here. So don't take that.
It also
Take it with
ruined
a
custom
grain of salt.
games.
Great.
Which it was
Again.
actually on the same day that we finally got. So that sorry, this is another tangent. They have this thing called Game of the Day, right? And normally when there's no battle pass, it's on the front page, and it actually helps a lot. Like you'll get a huge increase in player base, and it's just completely random. And sometimes it's like kind of broken. Somebody will get it like 3 or 4 days in a row. We've been waiting over 2 months for Pog to be on there. The day it's on there, Dota coordinator's fucked. And it's not on the front page anyway. So it made no difference. That's just typical shit. But we should update people on the collector cache stuff from last week, because that was the spicy topic of discussion. It feels like it's just been nipped in the bud here, Cinderin.
Yep.
Do you want to let's read? Do you think it's best we just read their whole post?
It's a long post.
It is a bit of a post.
I think we just skip to the conclusion and remember what we talked about. So to get you guys up to speed from last week, there was the whole collector's cache vote in the game, where a lot of the sets that were being voted on were actually breaking the workshop rules in terms of how many polygons they could use, so how much detail they could have on each individual piece. And what happened was that creators were putting in the sets under the limit, so submitting them correctly and within the rules, and then they could edit them afterwards and break the rules, and the system wouldn't check that correctly. So what Valve decided was, this is unfair play. All of the items that were in the cache over budget are disqualified. They're just flat out purged from this cache, so they couldn't win and get in. And for the future, they are planning on making higher budgets as well for the cosmetics. So to try to enable that kind of sets to get into the game, because
I believe
obviously the community loved a lot of them.
Morphling has been increased from 5 pixels to 10. I'm pretty sure.
Nice.
They've doubled it.
So yeah, this was one of the outcomes that we were expecting. I think this was the one we were expecting to be most likely. So I think people overall are pretty satisfied with this. And obviously we were discussing if anything would happen retroactively, and it sounds like it won't. So stuff that made it in the past, kind of like the 322 incident, there was no precedent set. Now there is. And everybody knows the rules, basically, right?
Yep.
So in the past, they just kind of got away with it. You can think about that what you will. If people are just, I think some people will feel like, they just used the system and got away with it, whereas others will feel like, okay, that's just a dick move, right? And whatever your perspective is, the outcome remains the same. So
I don't want to jinx it. We are actually on pace to end this episode before the hour mark, Cinderin. Somehow,
unbelievable.
I don't have faith in you. I believe that you will talk until we hit an hour and a half.
Random. Of course.
But we are done with Dota, actually. There wasn't really that much in terms of like regular Dota news, I feel like.
That is true.
I mean, like the banning is kind of a big deal, but it hasn't really been technically resolved from a Valve perspective. So a lot of this stuff we can't really comment on too much, it feels like. But what we can comment on is Artifact 2.0 beta, ladies and gentlemen. So as we talked about last week,
I love the hype to just... The way your voice dipped, that was great. Are you ready to rumble?
We have their strategy right now is to send or to have people fill out surveys, a lot of which have never played Artifact 2.0, and give their feedback on specific colors of heroes. So last week they did red, right? So now now they're doing green. So people can send their surveys, and I still don't know if I like this, by the way, just because a lot of people have not played or even watched. But there are some results from the red heroes, Cinderin, and I'd like to discuss them. Instead of doing hero spotlights this time, I think we just discuss this. So I'll just read the first couple sentences they have here. So we have results from the red hero survey we sent out last week. For the most part, there was a smooth trend to the responses. One hero stood out as needing buffs, Tidehunter. A few heroes had high points that were good enough to overcome their annoyance as enemies, Ursa and Sven, which I definitely agree are super annoying. But But there were, I think they misspelled this, there were two that
Yeah.
felt like they could use a deeper look, Pugna and Centaur. So they give out a table basically of heroes that did not do well in certain categories, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So Pugna and Centaur basically did not hit the fantasy element, aka I believe that's keeping close to their Dota feel.
Right.
Same with the avoid picking. People hate playing it. Boring. Pugna made it to that list. And overall miss, which I think that was their overall assessment, is Pugna and Centaur, like we said. So I actually have a disagreement here, Cinderin. So this is kind of what I was talking about, and I want your feedback on this. People that haven't played before, giving their opinions. How do you filter that shit out? I played for almost 2 weeks. I said Centaur was garbage. I think he's really bad. He's like his abilities are very they could be good and constructed if you build around them. That's about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Very particular usage. Pugna, I said, was garbage as well. But I've actually been playing Pugna this week. He's quite good, Cinderin. He's actually quite good. So I feel very strongly that he's actually at the very least decent. So they're taking advice from people, even me, that don't even know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Before you actually get a chance to test it out thoroughly. So what do you think? Because it looks like they're going to change the heroes.
Right.
They say that Centaur seems straightforward to fix. His signature card feels awkward to use, and his base stats don't let him take advantage of the trample on his activated ability. It would also be nice if he had a passive. Pugna might be a little more difficult. He was always an odd fit for red, only really belonging since he can take out tower enchantments. We'll get back to work and see what we come up with.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, I haven't played the game yet, so I'm going to just talk about it from like an overall perspective of games in general. We talked about this a little bit last episode, where I feel like asking the community for feedback, even if they haven't played it, is not irrelevant feedback. I still stand by that. I think it's good to ask people when they look at these cards and they have their initial impressions. Does this look fun? Does it look like something you want to play and look forward to? And does it look like something that you think would be a fair card? Because obviously when you design games, first impressions and people's expectations matter a lot. And that's something that Artifact in the past has clearly missed in some aspects. So I think they will be trying to do that for multiple aspects, not just card balance, to try to get community feedback. Who knows, they might do something similar with the economy. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but it could be that they ask for community feedback if this seems like a good economy system. I don't know. That's just a thought that they could do that. They did something similar with Underlords, right? With like the battle pass to find out if that was felt valuable enough to people in the way that it was.
They came out with a battle pass and people were already playing the game. So yeah,
and then they tested it. And then now that it's monetizable, people got a taste of what it's like and gave feedback on what's good and what's bad. So I think that's a great way of doing it. And like you said, the filter here is take it with a grain of salt. A lot of people that don't play a game, some things will look completely broken to, even if they're not, but their impressions still matter. So I can't give you like a ratio of one experienced player's opinion should outweigh 5 people that just read the card for the first time thing. I don't think it works like that, but like keep it in the back of your minds. If there's a card where you're like, is this good or not? Then I feel like it could be the deciding factor about whether you rework it or not. If you're like on the fence, should we do it or not? And tons of the people haven't played yet are like, this card looks shit or doesn't look fun, then what do you really have to lose? If you're already kind of on the fence, then that could push you over. But if the experienced players are like, this card is great, it's balanced, it's awesome, it's really fun, and then a lot of people are like, no, it's not, then I would say massively, overwhelmingly favor the people that have actually played the game, because obviously there's a high chance that the beginners can change their minds once they get to play it. Dota, I imagine reading all of the heroes and you've never played before. How much shit would sound insanely broken.
Right. Yeah.
And then once you get to play, it's actually okay, you know? Like, give and take. I'm good here, I'm weak there, which is an awesome part of the balance, is that every hero is shit sometimes and every hero is awesome sometimes. That's fun. It's fun both for and against. And in a card game, I think that can be pretty difficult.
I'm sure they're taking it with a grain of salt. They have to be. There's no way that getting feedback from people that have never played, even people that have only been playing like a week or two, is almost irrelevant to a certain point. Like there's certain aspects, like you're right. Like if they did monetization testing, that's a great way. That's a really good way to get like public feedback on. Even from just an outside perspective, somebody that's never played, that's actually valuable. But like I said, Pugna, he can destroy enchantments, Cinderin. That's pretty huge in my opinion. Okay, so that is Artifact 2.0 for this. So I guess for the next few weeks, instead of doing spotlights, we'll just discuss the heroes that they come up with needing changes and whatnot. Because
Sure.
I find that quite interesting.
And I mean, I'll be able to talk about it a bit more if I get access to the game, because then I can play some games and get a little bit more of a feel for it. So be a
I'll
little
see
more
what I
involved,
can do.
but-
I'll talk to my Valorant key guy.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
what we can do
he'll
for
get
you.
back to me, I think.
I mean, if Slacks isn't in yet, don't hold your breath, my friend. It is. I count my lucky stars every day.
It is truly random.
So speaking of Valorant, this will be very brief. Don't worry for those that really hate the game. We did discuss the ranking system. Remember, Cinderin, how the top rank was named Valorant and how they're going to change it? Well, they came back, and I believe the update's coming out later today. All the badges have been updated in terms of their visual, which I guess we can't really show, but they're way better than they used to be. And instead of the top rank being called Valorant, it is now called Radiant, which you would think...
And what's the second highest rank called?
Immortal.
Okay, good. So
fine
2
with that?
Dota terms.
That's right.
Yeah.
They could have made Iron Dire. What do you think?
Yeah.
Start with Dire?
That's such a... Your start on play is like, here's your medal. It's made of shit. Good
Dire.
luck.
So good to see that they're at least listening to feedback and whatnot. Okay, and then the last actual topic, since we're kind of just going through these quick today, Mixer. This is giant news.
Right.
Mixer is shutting down and partnering with Facebook Gaming. I'm just going to read the first sentence of this article to give you guys a quick summary. Microsoft is closing its Mixer service on July 22nd, which has already passed, and plans to move existing partners over to Facebook Gaming. The surprise announcement means Mixer partners and streamers will be transitioned to Facebook Gaming starting today, and Microsoft will no longer operate Mixer as a service in a month's time. So, I have been told via Nikki, pretty much is my source for all news that I'm not mega interested in, which is Mixer, that existing partners are not guaranteed to get a partnership on Facebook, number one. Number two, I think they were offered a couple $1,000 maybe, is what she said, I believe. A little bit of money to do the transfer. People like the two big ones that we're thinking of, Shroud and Ninja, who signed ridiculous contracts, apparently have just been bought out. Is that what we learned today, Cinderin?
Yeah. So allegedly, again, I'm just trusting Nikki on this 100%. I haven't
this is
seen
Nikki's
anything
fault
about
if
it.
we're wrong.
So if we're wrong, just you know who to talk to. No, but supposedly, like the original fee that Ninja got onto Mixer for was rumored to be, was it $30 million? I think, for transferring to Mixer. And supposedly Facebook offered twice that for him to stay on Facebook, and he turned it down. That's what we've heard.
And took the 30.
But it sounds like they keep what they were bought up for. So basically, instead of having to stay on Mixer and run out the entirety of the contract, they just bag all of the money and are now basically free to go wherever they want. So Ninja can consider going back to Twitch. He could consider taking a big deal on Facebook, but he turned it down. Who knows? Maybe they'll come back to him with 100 mil. I don't know if that will change anything. He could consider going on YouTube, where he has an insanely huge channel. I had no idea. What was it? 23 million subs? Was it on
couldn't
YouTube?
Tell you. Couldn't tell
That's
you,
fucking
Cinderin.
crazy.
I didn't do
I had no
research on
clue.
Ninja this time. I did misspeak. Sorry about that. July 22nd is in fact a month away, Cinder. We're not quite there. I'm just trying to get rid of this fucking year already. Okay, skip ahead, please.
But yeah, crazy stuff. And obviously, like, the big stories that everyone will talk about is the big streamers. But I think the problem here mainly is the people that get hit, right? I'm sure Shroud and Ninja, whatever they end up with, they will be just fine and happy in the end. They are insanely huge brands. The problem is the people that have worked really hard, spent countless of hours to get partnered finally on Mixer, and then when there's a merger happening with another platform that they're not guaranteed to get partner benefits there, I feel like that's kind of shitty. Like, I'll be honest.
I'm trying to understand, like, what is a partner benefit on Facebook? If it's just like a partnership on Twitch, who gives a shit? Just give it to them. Like, that's...
It
on.
might be
like
something... I don't know exactly how it works on Facebook Gaming, like with subscriptions or with Facebook paying you X percentage of the ad revenue. Maybe it's higher if you're a partner or whatever. It probably is if it's just like on Twitch. I don't know what it entails. I just flat out have no idea. But it's just shitty that people put in all this effort. And then it's one thing if Mixer shut down, right? If they're just like, we're discontinuing it. And then people who put in all the effort were like, you know what? It fucking sucks. Like, I was streaming on this. I put in so much time and it's done. But when you're merging with another one and you're allowing people to transfer over and even offering them money to switch, shouldn't you also offer them comparable benefits? Instead of being like, hey, you can have $3,000, but we're not going to guarantee you that you can have subscribers like you used to. Like, that's just... Is it a merger then, even? Like, because it kind of sounds like you're transferring them, but it's not like a merge of ideology for how to run the streaming service. You know what I mean? Like, they're not like... It sounds like they're not on the same page with what people deserve for what they've put in here. So to me, it's a bit disconnected. It's weird.
So... I was also wondering why would like obviously Mixer was not doing well, like comically bad,
right.
In fact. So the reason that I don't know why Facebook is doing this. I guess this is the reason. There's a thing called xCloud that Microsoft has developed, streaming service or whatever you want to call it. It's going to be part of the Xbox Game Pass, which obviously will be very important this probably November when Xbox Series X, Xbox Sex comes out. So they're going to be putting all their resources into boosting Facebook now, which, I mean, that's a whole nother story about Facebook and its, let's just call them issues. God, that company is an actual mess. Of course, having said that, we are taking sponsors. If you want us to stream on Facebook, which is clearly worse than any other service right now, it will take quite a bit of money, but Cinder and I will sell our souls.
We'll put the podcast on Facebook for 30 mil.
Maybe euros, maybe rupees. The currency doesn't really matter. Okay, 30 million something will be
grains of sand.
Yes, well, some sand is very valuable. But yeah, this is kind of a big deal, Cinderin.
Yeah, it is.
So now it's YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. What will survive? Where will the big boys go? Big boys and girls, I suppose. There's a couple bigger streamers for Mixer that were big before they got into Mixer.
Yeah, and the question is this better or worse for Twitch? Like, there's one competitor that shuts down, but they merge with another one, so logically it should get bigger.
Yeah.
And with both Microsoft and Facebook looking to do this, the amount of effort and manpower and development they might put into it could be a stronger competition to Twitch, which in the end, like we've talked about in this podcast previously, competition, the big winner in the end is the viewer and the streamer alike, because they can negotiate better terms. And for the viewers, the competition means that you always need to push yourself to make it a better viewer experience to compete with the other platform. So for me, like individually and just thinking of Twitch, this is probably good news, but a part of me is also like, it's still fucking irrelevant. Like, I can't really... I'm a bit torn between how much I believe this is going to challenge Twitch at all or not. Like, because so far, they've barely made a dent in Twitch, right? Like, in reality. I don't know. Like, maybe
all in all,
maybe my outlook on it is too...
Everybody should be rooting for them to have success, because like you said, it only benefits us. But right now, yeah, you're right. It's quite irrelevant. We'll see if that ends up changing in the future. I don't expect to have this conversation. Well, that's not true. If they just merged, when xCloud comes out, which I guess is going to be similar to Google Stadia. Remember when we talked about that coming out, and then it came out and nobody gave an absolute shit about it because it's garbage? Yeah, it's probably going to be the same thing. But anyway, we'll see. Yeah. Maybe they'll name their stuff a little bit better. xCloud, Xbox Series X. Like, dude, get rid of the X. It's not cool anymore.
Dude,
like,
xCloud actually sounds like a page you'd upload porn to. I'm just saying.
Some sketchy porn at that.
I mean, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, that's true. I've been on many sites like that. Okay, so on to the Patreon mailbag. We have a question from Absolute Sword. I have a question for the podcast, Suns Fan and Sinner. Do you have any goals or dreams you have given up on, and why? I do have one.
Okay.
It's very serious, too.
Pro in CS.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. Fuck.
I mean, that's the obvious
I'm
one, right?
thinking about before all that. I was
Okay.
a very good basketball player, Cinder. I gave up an NBA
Really?
dream. I realized I was white, which was obviously an inherent disadvantage. I couldn't jump very high, but I was a very good shooter. I could have been that guy in the corner shooting threes.
Could you?
I scored 52 points in a 7th grade game of basketball, Cinderin. I was actually good. And then, one fateful day, I was introduced to Quake 2. And shortly thereafter, I was introduced to Half-Life, the original Half-Life. And by the next year, I was morbidly obese. And I tried out for my basketball team the next year, 8th grade. And I almost vomited during the suicide runs. So I couldn't continue. So that dream had to be put on hold forever.
But didn't it spawn a new dream of becoming like a competitive eater then? Like, if you literally went from in shape to morbidly obese in a year, that's a pretty big accomplishment.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not that easy. Like,
I'm
you actually
very
have
good
to
at
be pretty
eating.
committed to eating shit and really not working out to make that transition so fast.
it was definitely a very abrupt transition, because it was just like one day I just stopped playing basketball every day, sat at home, played on my computer, ate my Totino's pizza rolls, and all that not disgusting, delicious, but not nutritional things. And the rest is history. Now I'm world famous. My dreams have been realized in a different way, in a different form. But
yeah.
I guess Counter-Strike would be the more serious one.
Yeah,
I don't know if
you were
being
definitely
pro-
closer to a top level in that than you were in basketball.
Yes, no,
Realistically
I
speaking.
agree with that.
Right.
I think when I was at my prime, being a professional, anything related to video games was not even a thing. So that was kind of the issue. So I feel like if I was in a different era, then maybe, but who knows? I mean, it's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts. But I'm pretty happy with the way my life turned out, so can't really complain personally. No real regrets, Cinderin, other than becoming morbidly obese. Again, this was a second time too. How about you?
/goal/dreams.
I'm gonna make a prediction before you begin. Your answer is gonna be mega lame. Continue.
Okay.
Prove me wrong.
That's all right. That's it. Mega lame. I gave up on becoming mega lame. I just can't do it.
I think you gave up on watching In Bruges about 8 months ago.
What a dream. That is a goal.
I mean, you got to set your bar pretty
honestly,
low.
Okay, here's your lame answer. I can't think of a goal that I flat out, or a dream that I've had and flat out given up on, except like a crush from way long ago that I gave up on because it just wasn't happening. Right?
A crush isn't on a girl or something?
Yeah. I mean, that's a goal / a dream, right? To get with someone. But that's my lame answer. That's all I've really got.
So you wanted to bang more chicks. That's your dream.
That's how you write news articles, right?
Jesus,
there,
man.
That's exactly what I just said. No,
you have to have something more. Okay, hold on. When you first started out in life as a little baby Cinderin, okay, walking down the street, and you didn't know anything about gaming before you even got gaming, did you have a dream before that, like to become a veterinarian or a school educator or something to that extent?
No. I'm a very reasonable person. I don't dream of anything because then I don't get disappointed.
Oh my God.
There you go. I'm just there.
Okay, how about
honestly,
this?
Okay, anything from before I was 10 years old, I barely remember anything. Like, I remember very small things. So, like, what I dreamt of being, I don't remember dreaming of becoming anything specific. The first thing I really wanted to pursue as a career was professional gaming, right? And as you know, I still haven't given up on that. And I've been successful in some ways in it. Part playing, part casting, part analyzing, part this. This is obviously my smallest accomplishment, this fucking podcast, but it's still there. It's on the list.
It's something.
You could at least laugh at that so I don't feel bad.
It's something.
Okay.
What my new dream is the last year is for you to watch In Bruges, but it still has not happened for some reason.
Is that a dream? Then you dream really small.
I mean, my dreams have been realized. I became an NBA player, very world famous. I did okay in Dota as well. Counter-Strike Professional very briefly. I just want you to watch it in Bruges. That's the final thing I need in my life.
Can I actually just ask you how you made the connection between dreaming of being with somebody that you have a crush on and wanting to bang more chicks? How is that the same thing?
I guess it's not exactly the same.
That was a very weird... It was like just a fucking college Chad. I wanted to be a college Chad.
Well, sometimes
did you never have a crush on someone and dreamt of being with them and then it didn't happen?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, then you.
I think this is where my part of my personality comes out. I was historically really bad with women. Too timid, some would say. Way too timid.
Yeah.
Very shy. I didn't really come out of my shell until Dota.
What a great time to choose to do.
I mean, if you want me to be full disclosure here, before Nikki, which was 7 years ago, I never truly dated anybody. Like, never really had a true relationship. So,
yeah.
I
mean, I can completely relate with that. It's pretty much the same. So
Dota changed everything for me, Cinderin.
Yeah.
It gave me everything.
What a great game. Look at what it's done to our lives. Here we are.
It can have a positive impact, no doubt about it.
It can.
Okay, speaking of positive impact on society, have you seen in Bruges?
It's getting difficult to come up with something good to say.
We made it past an hour, by the way. You did it.
Okay, nice. How many weeks has it been that you've mentioned in Bruges? Has it been a full year now? It wasn't a thing in the first few episodes, right?
I mean, yeah, it might have been not in the first 3 or 4. I don't know. I have to go back. It's been a year.
It's been a year, Shannon. It's been a great year. Actually, it's been a pretty shit year when you think about it.
Yes.
The last half year has not been great.
It's because you haven't. Is there a connection there, perhaps?
I am literally ruining the world by not watching in Bruges. Imagine having that kind of power and then still not doing it.
Can you please answer the question, for God's
Chaotic
sake?
evil. No, I've not watched in Bruges.
Thank you, everybody. It's been a real treat. We'll see you next week. Same place, same time. We love you. Be nice to everyone, including yourselves.
Bye.
We say things that don't mean anything, but thanks for listening. Shut up. Yeah.